Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
America's cattle producers are conserving natural resources, all while producing food for the world. We talked to Florida cattle ranchers to show that investing in our planet isn't just a slogan for Earth Day. For these stewards of the land, it's a way of life.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kate Maher. We're celebrating Earth Day, which is intended to raise awareness about the need to protect our planet's natural resources for future generations. As we in agriculture know, America's farmers and ranchers are deeply connected to the land and play an important role in maintaining healthy ecosystems. We're on location in Florida to highlight how beef producers take steps every day to protect the environment and ensure sustainable food for generations to come. We asked some of the ranchers we'll hear from in this special episode what Earth Day means to them.
Earth Day, to me and my family, means that we're out here on the landscape trying to provide habitat for wildlife and the cattle that we care for. We're also caring for the land. It's not just a cattle ranch that we're just deriving all of our income off of cattle. I'm 8th generation Florida rancher that's enjoyed the landscape, whether it be hunting or the conservation or just seeing turkey come off the roost in the morning. But Earth Day is leaving it better than we found it. But every day to me is Earth Day because I have a passion for the land and caring for it.
Earth Day to me is important in that it brings our attention back to not only Earth, but the environment and the importance of us protecting that. Whether it's preserving our natural resources, the atmosphere, just trying to basically leave this Earth better than what it was when I got here. Looking forward to the future generations and trying to keep things preserved for them.
We are the original environmentalists. We are the ones protecting the land every day. We're here every day, 24/7. And, a lot of the lands that they want to try to, the government agencies want to try to take are the ones that the families have preserved for hundreds of years and didn't build houses or business complexes.
We love this country that we live in, and it was, built on agriculture. We always like to say that the backbone of the United States of America is agriculture. And, I don't care if you've got the best technology out there, the strongest military, where would we be without food? And that's why we got to protect these lands, and that's what Earth Day means to me.
We'll hear a lot more from these folks throughout the show. But joining me now is Wes Carlton of Bull Hammock Ranch in Florida. Wes, thanks for being with us today. Tell us a little bit about your family's cattle ranch here, please.
Well, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoy your trip while you're here. To start with, our family came to this part of Florida in around 1870. Was in the early citrus business and the first cattle commercial business here in this area. We came primarily from Central Florida, and then most of the families migrated down from Georgia and then on from the Northeast. But the ranch here, Bull Hammock Ranch, was established in the mid to late 1940s. It's always been a commercial cow-calf operation, and through the years evolved into a pretty large citrus business. Now currently we no longer have citrus, but we do some hay crops, legume crops for not only cattle but the horse market, and we converted a lot of the citrus land to vegetables. So we grow vegetables, commercial cows, and then we started the water farming projects as you see behind us.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that water. Give us an idea just of the surface water that you deal with here on the ranch and how it impacts the cattle.
Well, number one, in Florida, in South Florida, you got to be a water manager first, a grass farmer second, and third, you raise beef cattle. If you can't get the first two right, you're not going to do well at the third one. All of South Florida, certain times of the year in the summertime, irregardless of hurricanes or storms, just natural, normal summer rains, this whole ranch could be 1 foot or 2 foot deep in water. So that would basically be 10 or 20,000 acre feet of water. And with the water quality concerns going to the Indian River, we've implemented these projects. A lot of the ranches in South Florida have, and we're basically capturing water, and it doesn't ever go to tide or to the Indian River Lagoon, just trying to do our part to help. But like Bull Hammock Ranch, a small part of this water is actually our water. The biggest part of this water is from state or county lands that drain through us. So we're not only helping Bull Hammock, we're trying to do our part to help everybody.
You know, coming out this afternoon, we drove by some canal systems and whatnot. Talk about some of the strategies that you have to manage some of this water here on your land.
Well, this one with this project is pretty unique to a lot of the projects around the state. We not only can capture water before it gets to the municipal systems, so it never reaches where it goes to the public waterways. And in turn, we can also release it back behind us. The other way is a big marsh, and we can release this water out of here, run it through that marsh system, which cleans it, and then we can take it and move it all around the ranch and just use the water up on the ranch.
And that water management system and moving that water around, it really impacts ecosystems here on the ranch, but you mentioned some of those public waterways that it would impact. Talk about that a little bit, please.
Well, it's done, and we'll look at another project that's a more natural project later on today. But all of these, anywhere you enhance these wetlands, and a lot of these wetlands were dried up over the years due to big government projects or government canals. But revitalizing those wetlands has many benefits, not only for the wildlife, but even for our cattle grazing. It holds water up in the dry times. And basically, we're trying to mimic Mother Nature, just holding the water up longer. You know, you're going to have dry times. Right now is our dry time of year, but it just helps not only the cattle, and then doing our part to try to help the municipal, all the people we have now around here, just trying to do our part.
Yeah. Your conservation efforts led to you winning an Environmental Stewardship Award several years ago, but you haven't just stopped there. Talk about the opportunities for continued conservation on the ranch.
Oh no, we work every day. We've got all kinds of projects. We've got future projects in the works, trying to get permitting and the engineering done on those projects. And our environmental stewardship was just on this ranch at Bull Hammock. We've got 3 other ranches that hopefully my son will take the lead, and he'll go on and he'll reapply to the stewardship program at some point. But yeah, we've got several other big projects in the works continuing.
Yeah, it's always about continuous improvement. So then why is conservation and sustainability in those areas and those efforts that you put forward every day and never stop improving upon, why is it so important to your family's ranch and to Florida cattle industry as a whole?
I think from our family standpoint, our family's dedicated to staying in the business. We're not developers or home builders and don't wish to be. The development pressure's 4 miles that direction. But my son's committed to going on, and not only the conservation, but the cattle. And I think Florida, even with all the people, the 1,000 people a day moving to Florida, I think Florida cattle ranching will be here. It's been here for 500 years, and I think it'll be here another 500.
Wes, thanks for your time today. Thanks for your efforts to making that be here another 500 years, because we're going to need that beef to feed the world. Thank you for all your efforts. Come see us. Thank you. A great way to protect your fellow producers like Wes and your own farm or ranch is to become an NCBA member. Just call 866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. And if you join now, you'll get a voucher to redeem for a free 1-liter bottle of Cydectin Poron. Just mention or enter the promo code C2C. Still ahead on this special Earth Day edition of Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll visit another great Florida operation that is managed in an environmentally sustainable manner.
It's almost time for a weather watch, and in this week's episode, we're chatting about El Nino. The conditions there in the Pacific are warming up. That means El Nino remains probable by the summer and fall. Details straight ahead in this week's Weather Watch.
It is inevitable. Like the rising and setting of the sun, your gravel driveway will need maintenance. Drudgery? Never. Be the right person with the right tools doing the job the right way by watching How to Maintain a Gravel Drive Using a Box Blade with Hydraulic Scarifiers. Brought to you by tipsnotebook.com. When better how-to videos are made, we will make them.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest and largest national cattle industry organization working to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus big discounts only for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
We're always concerned about worker safety when we're dealing with livestock or farming or ranching environments. There's a lot of things and a lot of hazards that can happen. One thing we really are concerned about in any kind of sustainability model is the people side of that equation as well. And so if we can really keep our workers safe by training them appropriately, not putting them in a situation that is dangerous, it improves the sustainability of the operation by keeping those employees and retention of employees, because people like to work where they feel safe and they feel appreciated. Proper training, good equipment, a good plan is always something that makes somebody feel better about the day. BQA, the right way is the only way.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Cattle producers face all kinds of challenges when it comes to managing natural resources, but they all have a common goal: to protect the environment and leave the land better than they found it. We're joined now by someone who knows this firsthand. Matt Pierce, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your Florida cattle ranch, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. We ranch on several ranches north of Lake Okeechobee and then down in the Everglades in Clewiston on south of Lake Okeechobee. We run a cow-calf operation of around 2,400 head of cows, and we develop our own heifers and market our calves out west like normal cow-calf operators. We just love the land, and you know, we try to leave it better than we found it. That's kind of our motto.
Yeah, it's certainly a different landscape than some other places that we've been on. Maybe what are some of the unique challenges that you face here raising cattle in Florida in this environment?
Yeah, so some of the unique challenges that we face in Florida are weather, humidity, disease. Our property on the south side of Lake Okeechobee in the Everglades, it's a WRE easement, a wetland reserve easement, and we keep all the water on the property. So there'll be times that we have 6 inches of sheet flow across the property, and the cows have to adapt to it, and we keep them rotated and moved, you know, out of the wetland part of it. But that and you know, development encroachment is a problem in Florida with the 1,100 or so people moving here a day.
Yeah, that's incredible. Let's go back and talk a little bit about water. You're surrounded by water, but how critical is water management on the property here on the ranch?
So water management is very critical on the property. We try to hold water on the landscape because when it gets dry like it is now, you're going to need it. So we use riser culverts to keep water on, you know, in these ponds and sloughs, which helps the wildlife. It benefits the cattle. It's a symbiotic relationship that we have. So water is important. We end up having excess water, so we manage it, we hold it. That helps recharge the aquifer. It helps with water recharge for the coastal areas that need drinking water.
Yeah, that's really important to think about where it goes from here. You know, you have a lot of water here, but you've also invested a lot in some water development in terms of water troughs for the cattle here. Why are you doing that when you have so much natural resources water around?
So what we try to do is, like the water trough behind you, is we have the use of electricity here. At some places we don't, so we use solar. But we're using these water troughs and fresh water for animal health purposes. And we also feel like it benefits the wildlife because wildlife are drinking from that, either birds or your deer or you know, your other wildlife species that can get to it. So that's important to us to keep cattle in a freshwater environment. You know, and maybe not have to drink water from, you know, natural areas because of disease and issues that we face for that.
Yeah, sure. Speaking of wildlife, you manage the land for both cattle and wildlife here. Talk about some of the other things that you do to make this a great environment for wildlife to thrive as well.
Yeah, we sure do. So not only do we manage the cattle for the landscape and the environment, we also have a commercial duck operation. We try to get folks out on the landscape and show them the ranching. So the typical duck scene would be, you come in early in the morning, you get in your blind, and we tell our folks, that are hunting with us, here's what you're going to experience: these cattle on the landscape. You're going to see wildlife, and we're doing this for the wildlife and for cattle. And then when the sun comes up and everyone has a good hunt, and then they ride out, they're like, wow, the light switch comes on. They're like, you're doing this for cattle and wildlife, not just to make, revenue from the cattle. So we do, plant a lot of food plots, a lot of rice and millet for the ducks. We use cattle as a tool in the hunting. We found out through our experience is that where you have cattle, you have a lot of ducks. And you kind of have to see that, but we were hunting an area that we took the cattle out of, and we thought, well, we'll just let the ducks come here because there's water, and the ducks were actually where the cattle were. So, we're working with wildlife biologists to find out why that is and enhance that and use the cattle as a tool.
Yeah. So you've learned a lot just watching cattle and wildlife together. I bet it's fun too then to see people make that connection. How critical is it here in Florida with all those people that you mentioned moving in every single day and urban areas kind of growing out to keep open landscapes like this in Florida?
So I think it's very critical to keep those open landscapes. So my family moved into this Kissimmee River Valley 100 years or 150 years ago. And so you'd imagine that way different than what it is now. And then you get all these folks coming in, and they're coming from an urban setting, and they don't realize what this place used to look like. So we're fighting to keep the green spaces and to keep development pressure down and fight to ranch every day. I mean, I'm 8th generation Florida rancher. I tell my kids who are the 9th generation, we were born with a sword in our hand, and that sword is to defend what we're standing on today, to provide a fresh, wholesome protein source for the American public, to provide clean water for drinking for the coastal areas, to provide habitat and green space for wildlife. And we have to defend that every day because there is a lot of pressure on development and regulations. So it's a tough deal to ranch down here.
Yeah, you got to keep it open, and to do all that, you can't cover it up with houses to manage to do the same thing. So with your family having a long history here, what does sustainability mean to you and your family as you've managed this ranch over the 100 plus years?
Sustainability would be to pass it along to the next generation, and then to keep passing along. This is kind of what my family's known. I mean, they came down here 150 years ago. They settled on the western shore of the Kissimmee River, and they ranched before there was fences, before there was the canals and the 1,100, 1,200 people a day moving to Florida. So it's very important to be able to pass this down to the next generation and to instill that value that I have, that was instilled into me, that you don't take it for granted, that you're caring for this land, and you got to leave it better than you found it. So what I equate to is like, most of the folks that live in town don't understand what we go through, and that our forefathers developed this land, and we're putting new boards in the cow pens, we're planting new grasses, we're doing things to better the wildlife habitat on this place. They don't understand, and I equate it to like if you were to have 6 generations ago, your forefathers built a house, and you were expected to live in that house. Somebody's going to have to keep up the plumbing, somebody's going to have to keep up the electrical, somebody's going to have to keep up the foundation, and that's what we're doing with the ranch land. One other thing is that it's so tough to ranch in Florida or around the country, because if my kids wanted to get into ranching, you're looking at $7,000 to $8,000 an acre investment with 3 acres, 4 acres to the cow. You can't physically pay that back in cash flow, so you either have to be married into it or inherit it, and the inheritance comes to be a struggle because you have to keep it for the next generation.
Yeah, it's important work, but comes with a price and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. We thank you for all you're doing to protect the natural resources here in Florida and keep raising beef here. Thanks, Matt, for joining us.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll continue our discussion about the challenges and opportunities for cattle producers caring for the land in Florida. Stay with us.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Biosecurity is becoming more and more important in the cattle industry. Proper washout of your trailer after hauling certain classes of cattle, changing classes, or going to a different facility is all important. Changing your footwear, making sure that your clothing and your footwear is not contaminating different facilities as well. Using a side-by-side or a four-wheeler. All these things, when we go to different yards, different lots, make sure that they come back clean and not spreading disease. DQA, the right way is the only way.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Cattlemen and women are dedicated to managing their land and cattle in a sustainable way. They want to leave a legacy for future generations. For more than 30 years, the Environmental Stewardship Award has worked to honor these caretakers of the land and to share their stories. To find out more and to learn how you can nominate a farm or ranch for the Environmental Stewardship Award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. It can be tough to keep up with all the issues that impact the beef cattle business. That's why NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen is dedicated to bringing you valuable news, information, and education. The goal is to give you the knowledge you need to make the best decisions for your operation. So if you're looking for in-depth coverage of the beef industry and the issues that matter to you, don't miss Cattlemen to Cattlemen, debuting every week on RFD TV and on YouTube.
Time now for Weather Watch, brought to you by Ag Risk Advisors and WSR Insurance.
Earth Day topic of the show for today, and we have a lot going on in terms of El Nino plus the seasonal weather variations. We've got to watch out for flooding here in the near term, plus whatever El Nino may bring this summer. Talking about all of that stuff in today's Weather Watch. But again, Earth Day. You may not know it, but outside of the seasonal changes, the sun sinking in the sky or being directly over it, that's the biggest climate driver we have across the globe. Second to that is what happens with El Nino or La Nina. So we can't really change the seasons, and we can't change El Nino or La Nina, but we can predict both. So let's see the latest prediction for El Nino. So it's just looking at the sea surface temperatures. Are they warmer or colder than average? Let me show you in a series of an animation here. It's going to fade in between two images. But notice that blue coloration, that was earlier this year. That was mid to late January. And then the image that pops on there with the brighter, warmer colors there, that's where we are today. So we've seen a rapid warming of the conditions there across the equatorial Pacific where these black boxes are. That's where we look for La Nina and El Nino. La Nina is gone because we've warmed that area of ocean up. It continues to warm up, currently in a neutral phase. But what does the future hold? Is El Nino on tap? Latest forecast for this region where we look for El Nino does call for warmer and warmer ocean temperatures there going forward. So that by the time we're in June, July, August, September, October, next fall, into next winter, El Nino is not locked in to move in, but certainly the probabilities do favor an El Nino by the summer or into early next fall. I discuss it in greater detail in the National Cattlemen, the Directions magazine, coming into your mailboxes ASAP, should be there anytime. And I talk about the summer outlook there. Spring flooding outlook, we have to watch out for the west and much of the Mississippi and the Missouri. A lot of flooding has already occurred here. We have to watch out from St. Cloud and Minneapolis all the way down to the south towards St. Louis there, part of the Mississippi. Highest threat of flooding in that stretch of river, plus what happened out in California and Nevada with all the snow. Flooding likely there as well. We chatted about that spring flooding outlook in the last Weather Watch, but a quick update there that flooding is top of mind as we're warming up. That's today's Weather Watch. Matt Makins here. Blessings to you and yours.
Weather Watch is brought to you by Ag Risk Advisors, with you no matter the weather. And by WSR Insurance, providing insurance solutions for more than a century. Visit their websites for more details.
We're back on this special Earth Day edition of Cattlemen to Cattlemen as we talk with members of the beef industry about the ways they work every day to invest in our planet. Joining me now is John Williamson of Williamson Cattle Company. John, thanks for being with us. Can you give us a brief history about your family's Florida ranch?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'm a fourth-generation cattle rancher here in Okeechobee, Florida. The property was originally bought by my great-grandfather in the 1940s. Currently have the fifth generation living here on the property with us. And we're a diversified operation in multiple states, a couple different commodities. I had the benefit of working with my father and sister in the family business.
You've utilized some unique type of easement programs here on the ranch. Can you maybe explain what those are to our viewers and tell us how you use them?
So we have some property that it is in a conservation easement, WRP, Wetlands Reserve Project, and that is, in essence, holds up water, rejuvenates, restores wetlands. They are of great benefit to us this time of the year. We are able to graze them here in the state of Florida, and the NRCS looks at it as a benefit because the cattle do keep the property maintained, also help with invasive species, but also it holds water up this time of the year. We're currently in a drought cycle, and so it keeps our water levels high and helps to grow grass.
You talk about being in a drought cycle. I know a lot of people look at this green grass that we're standing in and say, you know, really a drought, but your rainfall has been below normal. How does your water management throughout the year kind of help you set you up to manage through a drought?
So we have numerous structures that allow us to control our water, not only to hold water up for times of year like this, but also to prevent nutrient runoff. We basically have to set our stocking rates off of this time of the year. This is, believe it or not, the least amount of grass that we will have, you know, this late spring going into summer. So, you know, we manage water year round. There's times of the year where obviously, you know, we have to discharge considerable amounts because we average 50 inches a year, with most of it coming during the summer.
So when you talk about discharging water then, how do you work to make sure that your valuable nutrients stay here on the ground, going into the grass and the ground instead of out into the water?
So before we put out any nutrients, we do soil and tissue test. We're about 7 miles north of Lake Okeechobee. So we, you know, obviously the water leaving this property gets a lot of attention. In essence, it needs to be cleaner leaving than what it came on the property. So we hold that water up to recharge those nutrients into the soil with structures like mentioned earlier. And we only put out fertilizer that we need. We use those soil and tissue tests not only for the major elements, but also the micronutrients. And we only put out fertilizer that we can justify. The expense of it currently really prevents you from overusing. I mean, you know, that kind of works hand in hand with conservation. We do not put out any more nutrients than we absolutely have to have.
Which is why those soil tests are so important to kind of manage some input costs too.
Absolutely, and you know, that's part of our BMPs, you know, working with FDACS, Florida Department of Ag and Consumer Services. So.
Yeah. Now, cattle play a huge role in helping to manage the land too and provide an environment for wildlife, to manage the nutrients. Talk about how cattle play a role in your stewardship and conservation efforts.
So we graze cattle on all the property we have, that with the exception of the citrus groves, and even in the conservation easements, we use them. They help keep, you know, the grasses down to a manageable level because you know, if you took the cattle off, the grass here would be head high basically, and of no value. So the cattle keep those species grazed down, they keep them in control. The NRCS, Natural Resource and Conservation Service, recognizes them as a benefit for removing nutrients. They go out, they graze the grass, thus turn it into beef, and in essence remove those nutrients from the land.
Yeah, but turn it into a valuable protein product. Another product, you mentioned diversification and citrus groves. A lot of places here in Florida have used cattle and citrus. You always hear about cattle and citrus in Florida. Talk about the citrus groves, how you manage the water for that, and the stewardship efforts in your groves.
So my family's also been in the citrus business for a number of years. And in recent years, it's been very tough. We've had a lot of challenges with diseases and hurricanes. Some of the things that we do conservation-wise, we get water from the city of Okeechobee. We reuse water. Their water, they bring it in, treat it, and then we use it to utilize to grow crops, citrus and some silage products. We also, in recent years, have started protecting the trees with nets to keep the Asian citrus psyllid out, which is the vector for greening disease. That's allowed us to use far less sprays. Those nets basically keep the trees clean and healthy without the use of pesticides. We use biosolids when we can instead of fertilizer, and even when we do use fertilizer, much like the grass, we're pulling soil and tissue test to make sure what the trees need. We do not put out fertilizer, during the wet times of the year because it's impossible to retain it. And we try to use fertigation as much as possible, slowly feeding the trees. The benefits of that are if you do have a big rain event, you don't lose it all at once. You're slowly putting it out to the trees.
A lot to think about in citrus.
It is, yes. It's a fun business, though.
Yeah. You mentioned water going into Lake Okeechobee. Your proximity to Lake Okeechobee draws a lot of visitors who enjoy the natural landscape and outdoor landscape and wildlife here. What opportunity does it present you and your family to talk about your sustainability efforts, your conservation efforts, and how cattle can really play a role in maintaining this ecosystem for wildlife and for clean water for visitors to enjoy?
Yeah, we have numerous opportunities to tell our story to people that are maybe not familiar with cattle ranching and the benefits of it. There are a lot of visitors to this area. Florida's growing. There's almost 1,000 people a day moving in. So we take every opportunity to do tours. We take every opportunity to have legislators out or just people in general that may not fully understand, because in essence, if they don't think that we're important, then it's a threat to our business. They all have a say. They're all voters, and once they see that what we're doing is friendly to the environment and a good, safe product we're producing, it helps us all.
That's a great point you make about them all being voters and helping to make decisions that help you keep here on the land. Thank you for having us out today. Thanks for your insights, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Still to come, we'll introduce you to a family that has been ranching in Florida for more than a century. That story when we return. Stay with us.
Getting to run a family farm is a dream come true. When you can grow good grass, there's opportunity to grow plenty of weeds. We want to use the tools that will help us do a better job. I would like the legacy to be that we took really good care of the land and we truly did it as a passion and we did our very best for the right reasons.
That certain time in the day when you can take a deep breath, knowing your work is done. That's the feeling Aspen products can create. Cost-effective alternatives to name brands that deliver the same results. Qualaxin is one of them. Use it to prevent and treat respiratory disease in your herd. Then breathe easy. Find them at Animal Health International.
CattleCon 24 is marching onward to Orlando, January 31st to February 2nd, 2024. Have your say in the future of the industry, network with fellow producers, or connect with friendly faces. Plus, the NCBA trade show will be on site with over 385,000 square feet of the latest and greatest in the cattle business to help your operation stay competitive and sustainable. Learn more at convention.ncba.org.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. There are big benefits to being a member. You'll get industry news in the National Cattlemen, email updates in the NCBA Beef Bulletin, plus discounts just for NCBA members. Join by calling 866-233-3872 or online at ncba.org.
Welcome back. America's cattle producers have been working for generations to protect the land, water, and air resources in their care. One place that knows a lot about this is the Kemper Cattle Company. Joining me now are brothers George and Henry Kemper. George and Henry, thanks so much for being here with us today. George, tell us a little bit about your family's history here of raising cattle in Florida.
Okay, Kate, so we've been here for a little over 120 years. My great-great-grandfather came down here and started this place in the early 1900s. Been in the cattle and timber businesses primarily, as well as turf grass, and it's been in the family and family owned and operated the entire time, and been blessed to be part of it. And my dad, my uncle had been running it, and then just in the last year or so, they've turned it over to my generation, which is the fifth generation, to kind of take charge.
So George, can you tell us a little bit about the cattle here on the ranch that might be unique to some of our viewers?
Okay, well, we're a commercial cow-calf operation primarily, also in the purebred business, but a lot of our cattle have a little more Brahman percentage in them, just cattle that can handle this environment a lot better, the heat and humidity and the parasites, both internal and external. Just they're a lot hardier animals, so we'll keep a percentage of that in there, and we raise our own Brahman bulls and also have a sale every year. But
the genetics really work for you here in Florida.
They do. I mean, we need cattle that can be efficient, and these cattle are more efficient than anything else we've tried. Of course, the higher percentage of Brahman, the more efficiencies we get in this environment particularly. So we have to concentrate on doing that, but still at the same time, concentrate on producing good feeder calves.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of feeder calves that come out of here, out of Florida, just in general. Henry, George mentioned cattle, turf, timber. Water is a big part of all of those operations or those specialties here on the ranch. How important is water management and managing those resources to y'all?
Yes, Kate, water management's huge for us, and there's a lot of people live in Florida, and just like everywhere, the big concern is there enough water for everybody and everyone who needs it. And with us in agriculture, it's extremely important for us to not only show how important water is to us in our ranching, growing grass, farming, whatever form of agriculture we need it in, but also to show that we can be efficient in how we use it. Because if we don't show that, then with all the demand for it, the amount of people here, we're going to struggle, as we move forward, being able to keep what we need to be, productive in agriculture.
So can you tell us about some of the unique water management systems that are in place here on your ranch?
This is one of the other things we have here is a 600-acre water retention area, and a lot of the excess water goes towards the marsh in that direction. We're able to hold that water and then in turn, when it turns to the dry season, use that to irrigate, especially like in the turf grass fields, but even some in the pastures as well. And it's also used for a nutrient retention process as well.
Important to hold those nutrients. Henry, anything to add?
Yeah, we do have a big swamp that runs through the property that, 300 square miles of land drain into this swamp, and it's actually the second largest tributary to the St. Johns River. So, we have a lot of water run through here, and it does back up just a little bit. The level of the St. Johns River right here outside of Melbourne is only 17 feet above sea level, and it's one of the very few rivers in the world that runs north, and it goes all the way to Jacksonville before it hits the ocean. So as you can imagine, at only 17 feet there's not a lot of drop in it between here and in Jacksonville. So the water backs up quite a bit right here at certain times of the year, but that swamp works as a really great resource for filtering that water out going to the river.
So that's another service then that the ranch provides, is sort of cleaning some water that's going off the ranch to other places.
It is amazing how pristine that water will be leaving as it comes through that swamp. Mm-hmm.
And kind of helps you with the grass management then too, through the drought cycle, is that fair?
It is, and it's hard to to grow a lot of grass by doing that way, but just by keeping that water table up, and it does certainly help grow grass by all means, yes.
You're not that far from Orlando, which is a big traffic area, and you've got a lot of people moving into the state of Florida every day. What challenges and opportunities does that present to you here on the ranch in terms of your stewardship practices, with your water management, and opportunities to interact with these people?
Absolutely, there are some challenges. We here directly haven't been affected as a lot of the other ranchers around the state. We're kind of blessed in this area where we have Deseret Ranch on our north and south borders, and then we have state conservation lands, St. Johns River on one side and a management area on the other. So we're kind of blessed in that regard. But, they always say that, my dad always says, the two things we have to be concerned about more than anything are population and regulation. And the more people we have here, the people in agriculture become more of a minority and our say is less. So it's extremely important for us to get out and educate the community and these people moving down here just how important agriculture is to us. It's huge to this whole area of Florida because we play such an important role with our climate like it is, to be able to produce a lot of cattle down here. We can do a lot of farming and vegetable farming, things like that too. So it is crucial to us. But the population growth has also, had some good things come out of it for us. As George mentioned earlier, we're in the turf grass business, sod business. That's one way we can capitalize on it, by growing sod and put on these yards. So at least we can ensure they get a good, pretty yard.
Now, you all have put some of this ranch in a conservation easement. How has that helped you with your stewardship goals of the natural resources and the ranch here? How has also helped you secure the future of this place for other generations and the legacy of the ranch?
Yeah, so in 1998, we started our first conservation easement project, and we don't ever want to see this land develop. We want to keep it in production agriculture. We want to keep it as pristine as we can, and putting houses on it's certainly the last thing we ever want to see happen, any kind of development. And we look forward to continuing this, and we don't want to be the generation that turns it over to something else. And we are now have applied for another conservation easement program, which is the Rural Family Act, Family Lands deal, and hopefully we'll know something before the end of the year whether or not that goes through. But either way, whether it does or not, we're going to continue to do what we can to preserve the place, as is the next generations. Everybody, this is special, this is home, and we will continue to do what we can to keep it in agriculture for many generations to come.
Henry, what would you add?
I want to add something there to what George was talking about in our conservation easement, and it was the original conservation easement we did was kind of twofold. Not only did we want to conserve the land and put it under conservation, but we also, it's very important to us to get some estate planning done at that time. My grandmother was still alive, and we were in a situation where we were going to have to do something, and it put us in a position where we could handle the estate planning with my grandmother. And what a lot of people don't realize, that if we don't do this planning and work ahead and try to get all that done in time, that we could potentially lose a big portion of the ranch, and in a lot of cases you're going to sell to the best buyer. Even though we don't want to see it developed, you're in a situation where you have to get as much as you can out of it. So it's going to, in turn, especially down here in Florida, a lot of this land that's being sold is going into houses, and that's ultimately what's going to happen. So that's why it's so important for us. But some of this money that the state and federal government have come up with for conservation plans is huge, because not only does it preserve the land, it also enables the family to stay in business longer due to some of these planning situations.
So it's really good not only for you as a family to manage some of those tricky type of generational transfer type of issues, but it also keeps this place open and maintaining a really healthy ecosystem for the environment, for the people coming into Florida to enjoy wildlife too.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Thank you both for your time today. Thanks for letting us come and take a peek here. Thanks for all you do each and every day.
Thank you for having us.
There's more Cattlemen to Cattlemen still ahead, so stay with us.
The 90-day trial demo that we did was a great success. We really tried to go after people that hadn't used Alticid before or hadn't used it for several years or had a maybe a not so favorable experience with it prior for whatever reason. If we can show you that this will work over 90 days and it doesn't cost you anything, would you be interested in that?
If you're involved in transporting cattle, now is the time to get your Beef Quality Assurance Transportation Certification. This is a proven way to learn and adopt the best practices in animal care and transport, from the ranch to the feed yard to the processing facility. And it's important for everyone in every part of the beef cattle industry to do things right to show consumers we all care about beef quality. There are new BQA transportation training modules available online now. And best of all, it's free to become BQA Transportation Certified. It's the right thing to do for your business and for our beef industry. To find out more and to get your BQA Transportation Certification, visit the website bqa.org. The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Are you looking for top quality genetics to improve your herd? Then check out Whitestone Farms' 30th annual performance tested bull and female sale Saturday, May 6th. It's an opportunity to buy some of the best cattle in the industry, including sons from the Angus breed's top bulls. Whitestone Farm uses cutting-edge genetic technology to produce cattle with eye appeal and high performance. For a sale catalog, visit whitestonefarm.com. If you're looking for the best in cattle industry news, information, and education, then don't miss NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Each week we cover important topics such as herd health and cattle handling, plus updates with congressional and industry leaders about today's top policy issues, and stories shot on location at cattle farms and ranches around the country. Don't miss NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen on RFD TV and on YouTube. You have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team or your breed association to learn more.
Welcome back to our Earth Day special from Florida. Now, sustainability isn't just a buzzword for the ranchers we've talked to today. It's a way of life. We asked them to share their thoughts on what sustainability means to them and to their families.
We look at the word sustainable and we feel like our family, to be able to have been here 120 years, that we have been sustainable. And we need to just kind of, I won't say keep on doing like we're doing, we need to keep up with technology, keep up with research, and do things to make things better, and never just be happy with the status quo. We can always be better.
The way I look at it, and my family looks at it, but for me personally, you know, we look at it as our watch. I want to leave things better, you know, have it be better when I leave this earth than it was when I got here. And from sustainability, from cattle, I think Florida will be in the cattle business for many, many years to come. But to do so, we have got to do these water projects and do our part just to make it sustainable.
You know, being fourth generation and with more generations coming up, sustainability is everything to us. You know, taking care of this property, preserving it, making sure for the future generations it's like this. You know, being in Florida, we have 22 million people here, 1,000 people a day moving in. So it's very important for these green spaces. You know, and we make every effort to preserve the environment and the endangered species and wildlife. But, the way we've looked at it is, we don't own this land, we're just stewards of it.
Sustainability to me means that you can pass it along to the next generation, that you're putting back more than you're taking. So the way the general public could help us, Florida ranchers, is to buy our product in the stores, support beef. We have a wholesome, safe product. We're not only in the beef business, but we're in the conservation business. We're protecting the land. We're recharging the aquifer. We're storing water. We do these things for the general public, and the trade-off is buying beef and consuming safe and nutritious product.
We're wrapping up this show with some great images submitted by farming and ranching families from all across this country who invest in our planet each and every day. Remember, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association fights for the interest of cattle producers in every state and in every sector of the beef cattle industry. But your support is needed to continue this important work. So please consider becoming a member of NCBA. Just call 866-233-3872 or go to the website ncba.org to join. And if you use the promo code C2C, you'll receive a coupon for a free 1-liter bottle of Cydectin Poron. That wraps up this special Earth Day edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks for spending some time with us. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.